And Bird tough to defend. Why? Because he looks slow as shit to me. It's like, I'm missing something. So tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? Larry Bird didn't just leave a mark on the NBA. He left a crater. From the moment he stepped onto a basketball court, his impact was undeniable. Even in college, he was such a force that the Boston Celtics drafted him before he had even committed to the NBA. And when he finally arrived, he was an MVP-caliber superstar right out of the gate, instantly transforming the Celtics into a powerhouse and leading them on deep playoff runs year after year. Bird's career was defined by legendary battles against the greatest players of the 1980s, carving his name into the history books with each rivalry. But his influence didn't stop when he hung up his sneakers. He thrived as both a head coach and an executive, becoming the only person in NBA history to win MVP as a player, coach of the year, and executive of the year. His fingerprints are everywhere in the game's history. For over 3 decades, NBA legends have shared stories about Larry Bird, tales that sound almost mythical. With a nickname like Larry Legend, it's no surprise that his legacy feels larger than life. But don't just take my word for it. Let's hear what the greatest players of all time have to say. Starting with none other than Michael Jordan. When discussing the greatest of all time, one name inevitably comes up first: Michael Jordan. For many fans, Jordan was their introduction to the NBA, as he single-handedly revolutionized the league's popularity in the 1990s. But even the greatest have predecessors, and before Jordan could dominate, he had to battle through the legends who came before him. There's a reason Jordan ruled the 90s, but struggled to make deep playoff runs in the 80s. Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics stood in his way. Despite already being an elite talent, Jordan repeatedly ran into Bird's Celtics in the Eastern Conference, suffering back-to-back first-round playoff exits at their hands. Even Bird himself acknowledged Jordan's greatness early on, but at that stage, experience and a superior team kept him from breaking through. Jordan was known for rarely giving praise to his rivals, but when it came to Larry Bird, his admiration showed in different ways. Enjoy yourself, Doc. Y'all give the room 5 minutes. Yeah. Alright, take care. They can work with that golf game of yours. Jordan's interactions with Larry Bird often carried a bittersweet tone. Frustration from losing to him on the court, but deep respect for his greatness. Off the court, he was more cordial, even inviting Bird to rounds of golf, perhaps one of the few places he could actually beat him. At times, though, Jordan's frustration was more apparent. He didn't shy away from calling out Bird's physical and relentless style of play, even labeling him as dirty at times. So he's a tough, hard player that you get angry at sometimes. Everybody does. I mean, it's this common thing. If you had 273 professional athletes, professional basketball players, and you say who's the 30th player in the NBA, I see 95% say Lambeer or Larry Bird. Really? Jordan's comment is interesting, considering very few players have ever accused Larry Bird of being dirty. Maybe Bird took a more aggressive approach specifically to gain an edge over Jordan. Or perhaps Jordan was simply exaggerating to justify his struggles against him. On the other hand, Jordan's former teammate, Dennis Rodman, had a very different take on Bird. Rodman once claimed that Bird wouldn't succeed in today's NBA, even suggesting he'd be better suited for European basketball. The intent behind Rodman's statement remains unclear, leaving many to wonder exactly what he meant. Okay, I'll put it this way. If Larry Bird played in this era, I thought he'd be in Europe. So, I'm just letting you know, man. Really? I like I said, don't just say you be somewhere over there. Because, his game was fit for Boston at that time in the 80s or stuff like that. But, today's world? Oh, hell. Rodman may have held some lingering frustration toward Bird, as the two had their fair share of intense battles on the court. Often assigned to guard Bird, Rodman experienced firsthand how relentless he was, scoring with ease and backing it up with constant trash talk. During this era, Rodman's teammate Isaiah Thomas shared an interesting story about Bird's competitive mindset. According to Thomas, Bird once took offense when the Pistons assigned a white defender to guard him, as white players at the time were often unfairly stereotyped as less athletic. Bird made it clear that wouldn't be enough to slow him down, which ultimately led Detroit to put Rodman on him as a more physical defensive matchup. Larry Bird was a relentless trash talker, but what made him unique was his ability to make it humorous. His confidence and wit often made even his opponents laugh, like the irony of him complaining about white defenders when he himself was white. Bird's race was also a notable part of his superstardom, largely because of his iconic rivalry with Magic Johnson. The NBA leaned into their contrasting backgrounds, using their differences to fuel one of the greatest rivalries in sports history. In many ways, it's impossible to talk about Bird without mentioning Magic. Despite their years of fierce competition, Magic Johnson has nothing but the highest praise for Bird today. Looking back, he appreciates their rivalry, recognizing that it pushed him to become a better player. From the very beginning, Magic always felt like he was chasing Bird's level, a challenge that defined both of their legendary careers. The true vote, that's all. The Rookie of the Year race between Larry Bird and Magic Johnson wasn't even close. Bird won in a landslide. Even decades later, Magic admits that loss still stings, but instead of dwelling on it, he used it as motivation to reach Bird's level of greatness. As for how Bird's game would translate to today's NBA, many believe his skills would still hold up well. In fact, Gilbert Arenas has even stated that he would pick Bird to beat LeBron James. His former teammate Danny Ainge offers valuable insight. Having witnessed Bird's greatness up close, Danny recalls one thing above all: his unshakable confidence. Bird believed in his abilities so much that he would toy with defenders, telling them exactly what he was about to do, then doing it anyway. No matter how they tried to adjust, they simply couldn't stop him. The brilliance of Larry Bird's game went beyond the obvious, and many casual viewers may not fully appreciate the small details that made him so dominant. Even Kobe Bryant, a relentless student of the game, initially struggled to understand what made Bird so difficult to defend. Curious, Kobe went straight to the source, asking Lakers legends from the Showtime era what made Bird so special. From an outsider's perspective, Bird didn't appear particularly fast or athletic, yet he was an unstoppable offensive force. There had to be more to his game than met the eye. After studying Larry Bird's game, Kobe Bryant became one of his biggest advocates, urging more people to watch and appreciate his greatness. Through his own research and conversations with NBA legends, Kobe gained a deeper understanding of what made Bird so special. He believed the younger generation should follow that same path, learning from the legends of the past to truly understand the game. One of those legends is Byron Scott, who battled Bird in multiple NBA Finals as part of the Showtime Lakers. Scott shared a story about Bird's legendary mind games and trash talk, delivered with an almost unsettling calmness. Bird wouldn't just talk trash, he would tell defenders exactly how he was going to score, daring them to stop him, then doing it anyway. No matter how well they adjusted, he still found a way to dominate. Playing against Larry Bird had to be incredibly frustrating. Imagine doing everything right as a defender, anticipating the play, rotating correctly, and working as a team, yet still being powerless to stop him. It had to be demoralizing, especially for Byron Scott and the Showtime Lakers, who faced Bird multiple times on the NBA's biggest stage. But while his opponents endured the frustration, Bird's teammates got a front-row seat to the show, often leading to dominant victories. Bill Walton recalls what he considers Bird's greatest game, which came in the NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets. On that night, Bird stepped out of his usual calm and collected demeanor to fire up his teammates in the locker room. This story perfectly illustrates what sets Larry Bird apart from other NBA greats. His game wasn't just about skill, it was his intangibles, his relentless drive, and his unmatched basketball IQ that made him a true winner. Bill Walton often spoke about players who won the genetic lottery, the biggest, strongest, and most athletic stars in the NBA. He played alongside and against physical giants like Ralph Sampson, a 7'4" phenom built similarly to Victor Wembanyama, and Hakeem Olajuwon, who alongside Sampson formed Houston's feared Twin Towers. Even on his own Celtics team, Kevin McHale had one of the longest wingspans in NBA history at 8 feet, and they still had two more 7-foot centers in the rotation. Yet somehow, it was Bird, labeled as unathletic, who led the Celtics in rebounding. His elite basketball IQ, laser focus, and relentless hustle made him a force all over the court. In that pivotal NBA Finals game against the Rockets, Bird sealed the win with a masterful 29 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, and 3 steals, closing the door on Houston's championship hopes. Even among freakishly talented and physically gifted players, Bird always found a way to be the most impactful presence on the floor. Walton, a legendary champion himself, could only watch in awe. Bird's aura wasn't lost on his opponents either. Charles Barkley, one of the NBA's rising stars in the mid-'80s, felt it firsthand early in his career. He still vividly remembers the first time he saw Bird up close, and it left a lasting impression. The sheer audacity of walking into a locker room, looking your competitors in the eye, and declaring yourself the winner before the contest even starts is almost unheard of. But that was Larry Bird. And the most incredible part? He backed it up. One of the most legendary moments of his career came during an NBA three-point contest, where Bird didn't even bother taking off his warm-up jacket. He deliberately restrained himself, fully confident that he would win regardless. It wasn't just a statement, it was another way to trash-talk his opponents, but through a fashion choice. That level of confidence and psychological warfare is something rarely seen in today's NBA. Another player known for his legendary trash talk is Reggie Miller. Over the years, he and Bird developed a strong bond through Bird's time as the Indiana Pacers head coach and team president, while Miller was the franchise's cornerstone. But before they built that relationship, they were fierce competitors. Miller once sat down with Bird and shared a story about a game where Bird completely dominated him. And he told it directly to Bird himself. "Cool moment of watching you." Competitors and trash talkers left speechless in admiration. But that's the kind of impact Larry Bird had. His greatness was simply undeniable. Bird's dominance in the 1980s weighed heavily on the minds of the Showtime Lakers, especially their captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Had it not been for Bird and the Boston Celtics, Kareem could have won more championships than any player outside of the 1960s Celtics dynasty. Kareem became all too familiar with battling Bird on the NBA's biggest stage, meeting him multiple times in the finals. But instead of growing to resent Bird for standing in his way, Larry Bird could do it all. He was an elite scorer, rebounder, playmaker, defender, and shooter, a rare all-around talent. Yet, despite his dominance, many still underestimated him simply because he didn't look like the typical NBA superstar. Even Patrick Ewing once bought into the doubts surrounding Bird, but that changed the moment he stepped into the league and saw Bird up close. Any skepticism vanished immediately. Bird proved that athleticism alone doesn't define greatness. It's about how you use your skills and intelligence to impact the game. Time and time again, he outplayed opponents who were considered more athletic or physically gifted, showing that pure talent, workout. One of the best examples of an athletic freak that Larry Bird consistently outplayed was Dominique Wilkins. Wilkins was a high-flying, explosive scorer who could outrun and outjump almost anyone. His game thrived in transition, where his speed and athleticism made him nearly unstoppable. But Bird understood both his own strengths and his opponent's weaknesses. Instead of trying to match Wilkins's pace, he controlled the tempo, slowing the game down and forcing it into a half-court battle, where his skill, IQ, and execution gave him the edge. Wilkins, despite all his physical gifts, couldn't counter Bird's strategy. As a result, Bird and the Boston Celtics eliminated Wilkins and the Atlanta Hawks 3 different times in the 1980s playoffs, proving that basketball IQ and strategy can overcome pure athleticism. But what they were great at is slow. He's heard all the usual criticisms. Bird was too slow, not athletic enough. But Peyton knows that basketball is about more than just speed and athleticism. Intelligence, skill, and instincts often matter more than raw physical ability. It's important to remind people just how much Bird accomplished in his relatively short career. You don't accidentally win multiple championships, multiple MVPs, and make countless all-star appearances. Those achievements don't happen by luck. Bird's impact on the game was undeniable, and his legacy deserves the same level of respect as any of the all-time greats. It goes beyond stats and championships. It's defined by the respect and awe he commanded from his peers. From Michael Jordan's rivalry and admiration to Magic Johnson's appreciation of their shared journey, Bird's impact extended far beyond his on-court brilliance. He wasn't the most athletic player, but he didn't need to be. Bird outsmarted and outworked his competition with elite basketball IQ, unwavering confidence, and relentless determination. His influence remained strong even as the game evolved, with legends like Kobe Bryant and Gary Payton emphasizing how his skills are timeless. Whether it was through trash talk, mind games, or clutch performances, Bird constantly proved that greatness isn't just about physical dominance. It's about making everyone on the court believe in your ability to win. He wasn't just a great player, he was the blueprint for how greatness comes in different forms.